This is CJ Scioscia from the band Blood Feast, and you're watching that metal interview on your computer right now, or maybe your Roku.
That metal interview.
Welcome back, boys and girls, to the best rock metal podcast on the planet. My opinion, of course. Your friend James welcomes you once more. And this episode is a special one for me, as they all are, but one of my favorite bands of all time, speaking of thrash metal, is this band here by the name of Blood Feast. I first heard of this band back when I was a kid. I got a hold of their EP Face Fate, which I highly recommend. It's a 4-song EP, and I want you guys to check it out, because if you are a thrash fanatic as I am, you will know what I'm talking about. 4 tracks on there are Face Fate, Bloodlust, and then side B, back in those cassettes, of course, you got R.I.P. and Vampire. All awesome jams that I really want you guys to hear if you're not familiar with Blood Feast. For those of you that are familiar with Blood Feast, and you will know by now that they have a new album out, Infinite Evolution. Let's listen to their newest single and video, Outbreak. We'll be right back.
It's a deadly sickness, this wretched disease. Infect the innocent.
Did your face melt? Yes, of course. The newest single and video from New Jersey's own Blood Feast from their album Infinite Evolution. And on this episode, we have guitarist Scioscia from the land of New Jersey. And Blood Feast has been around for many years. For those of you that don't know, since 1980, I want to say mid 80s maybe. The first album dropped 87, Kill for Pleasure, EP Face Fate 87, Chopping Block Blues 89, and there's a little hiatus there that we'll talk about. And their next album dropped 2017, The Future State of Wicked. And that brings us to the newest rendition from Blood Feast, Infinite Evolution. But we did skip a 2018 EP, Chopped, Sliced, and Diced. Anyways, let's go on with our chat with Scioscia, guitar player for Blood Feast since 2014, give or take. And as he talks about his former band and current band, I should say, INSANIAC, who are also dropping an album very, very soon here, an official album. I can't say debut because they have a couple of demos that are out there in circulation, so check them out. INSANIAC, a band from Scioscia of Blood Feast. And anyways, here is our conversation and chat with CJ. Check it out.
First of all, where are you? What part of the planet?
Where am I? I am in Watchung, New Jersey, at my recording studio, the Chateau Bow Wow Recording, and which doubles as Blood Feast's rehearsal space.
Already? Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to be in one of those rehearsals. A fly on the wall, just to check it out. That'd be great. But
I wish I could spin. I'm on an iMac. I wish I could spin it around so I could show you the room, because, the live room, because that's where the band's original demo when they were Bloodlust back in 1985-86 was recorded in this studio. I didn't own it at the time, but it was called Earthquake Studios at the time, and I guess they were running 8-track. And that original demo, which got them signed to New Renaissance, it's just weird that we've recorded the last 2 albums and an EP here as well. Coincidence that that my studio is here.
So did you know these guys at the beginning in the 80s, or?
I did. We did a little bit. I was in a band called INSANIAC, another thrash band from here in Jersey, and I also wrote for fanzines back in the day, and I did an interview with Kevin Kuzma, the original drummer. We did a couple of shows with Blood Feast in Staten Island, and we hung out with them one time at their rehearsal space, which was where Overkill was rehearsing at the time, which was probably about 8 miles away from here. So yeah, there was interaction, but we were a different kind of thrash than they were. Blood Feast was kind of like verging on that burgeoning death metal thing at the time, and we were pushing more in a different direction. Definitely a lot of speed, but not as much speed where Blood Feast was nothing but speed, most of the time. So yeah, I have a little bit of history going back to the original band.
Very cool. I first heard of them through. I got a hold of the EP Face Fate.
Yeah.
Back in '89, I guess, or maybe '90, and I've been a fan since. So awesome stuff, right?
Cool. I remember getting Face Fate and being blown away by the song and the production versus what they had on Kill for Pleasure was definitely a step up. And I wish that they'd have continued that way when Chopping Block came out, but they didn't. But there were a lot of changes before Chopping Block Blues came out.
Yeah, it's kind of different.
You may or may not get into.
Right. So let's speak of yourself here. What age did you start with the guitar, or got into music? How old were you?
Well, I've been listening to music as, probably my parents probably played music when I was a toddler, But my first memories are hearing the Woodstock soundtrack. specifically Santana doing Soul Sacrifice, 10 years after, with that amazing, performance of I'm Going Home, of course, The Who, and, but I didn't start playing guitar until 1978. I've been a Ritchie Blackmore fan forever. My dad and my uncles got me into Deep Purple, and then I later got into Rainbow, and I happened to be lucky enough to see Rainbow with Ronnie on the Long Live Rock and Roll tour, and that was 2 June 1978. Within 2 weeks, I was finally taking guitar lessons, and I haven't looked back since.
So that's one of my questions. Who inspired you to pick up a guitar? You mentioned Blackmore, you mentioned Carlos Santana. So there you go. Those are your, is there any other heroes or?
Oh yeah, I have gigantic amount of heroes, but the big ones were Blackmore, Tony Iommi, of course, Alex Lifeson from Rush, Steve Howe from Yes. Certainly not a metal guy, but an inspiring guitar player. Eddie Van Halen, was Van Halen 1 came out right around the time I started playing. And, Randy Rhoads, thankfully I was able to see him with Ozzy, because I'm a little, I'm showing my age, but yeah, I've been very fortunate to see a lot of, the bands we all love, I couldn't care less for Ozzy after Randy was gone, but, and then later Malmsteen, Gary Holt from Exodus is a huge hero of mine. Piggy from Voivod, and now Daniel Mongrain from Voivod is an inspiration like you wouldn't believe. And, a lot of good. That just scratches the surface. David Gilmour, of course, always.
There's a bunch, I know. So you said you got to see Randy Rhoads on stage.
Yeah, I saw them. I saw Ozzy again at the same place I saw Rainbow, place called the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, and it was the day after my 18th birthday. Motorhead was opening, and it was the original. It was Fast Eddie and Filthy Animal and Lemmy, and 8th row in front of Randy Rhoads was just like, got smoked that night. Wow, and then less than a year later he was gone, which was that rocked my world.
Horrible loss for.
Oh, absolutely.
For anybody.
Yeah.
So at what point did Insaniac come along? When was that born?
It'll be 40 years ago next month. I jammed with, I through a friend, I got in touch with Tom Knowles, who became the singer and co-guitar player, and I went and jammed with him and our original drummer Eddie Scortino, our only drummer. And wow, that must be thunder outside. Yep, that's thunder. I hope we don't lose power on this. And I met them on the 12th of September, 1984. And that's a very important day of my life. I mean, less than 6 weeks before, I had discovered Metallica. I had been reading about them for a long time, via Kerrang and learning more about the heavier end of things, Accept, Raven. I saw Accept in early '84, and that blew my mind. But hearing Metallica, that's kind of like what turned my world towards thrash. And then when I jammed with the Insaniac guys the first time, I was like, yeah, this is really where I need to be. Because I'm not it was never a pretty guy. I wasn't going to be able to be in a hair band, and I didn't want to play that way. I wanted to push boundaries and stuff, and we did. So it's 40 years ago. Wow.
You mentioned hair bands, so you don't like that stuff at all, or?
No, never. Even when like Shout at the Devil came out, I was like, it was hard, but it still was like I didn't like the look and stuff. The glam was never my sort of thing. That developed into the hair band thing. I did appreciate Quiet Riot, and probably part of that was because of the Randy connection. But they didn't seem as hair band as like other bands at the time, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I was just never, once I was all in on the thrash scene, I'm like, posers must die, follow Mr. Bailoff,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
So how was the local scene there in Jersey back in the 80s, CJ? Was there a bunch of venues or a bunch of bands besides Overkill?
Yeah, there were. I mean, we made some of our own shows. I mean, we played, one of our earliest shows was at a church auditorium. They didn't know what the hell they were getting. We did the show with our local buddies, Phantom Warrior, who were from Union, New Jersey, like Insaniac was, and and then we were all, those guys are, we're all talking about, singing about dark shit, and we're, in a gymnasium in a Catholic church kind of thing. But these things happen. But there was a decent amount of venues. We made a bunch of forays. We played New York City a lot, in like Staten Island, and got to Brooklyn, got to Manhattan, things like that. Yeah, there were some good clubs here in Jersey, but they weren't pushing the thrash out. I mean, because the hair metal, glam metal thing was much bigger than what we were doing. And, while Metallica was certainly going up the ranks and bringing more respectability to thrash every day, the baby bands like us, like Blood Feast, like, Phantom Warrior, and all the other Jersey local bands, we had to bust our ass, and we did, and it was a fun time, man. A lot of fun.
Did you guys record a demo right off the bat, or did you guys start like everybody covers?
Oh yeah, we definitely we released 4 official demos. We never got signed, and a label from China, Area Death Productions, put out all the demos officially on CD about 11 years ago. So the Scream City Asylum demo, our second studio demo, Psychomania, which was actually able to remix because I had the master tapes. The Plead Insanity 3 song, the Medialized thing, the very last thing we did before we broke up, it all officially got released on CD finally. And then there was a live demo we did that came out on vinyl through a label in Japan in 2009. I don't have any of it here on the wall, but I definitely have it at home. But we did a lot of work trying to break through, but we just didn't. Some bands don't get the labels get love, and it's understandable. But it wasn't for lack of trying. We definitely pushed hard. Some bands got through, some didn't.
Right. So, do you think, now that you mentioned labels, do you think a band needs a label to make it out there, or can it be done just with social media? What's your take on it?
These days, it's obviously quite a lot easier to do it on your own. I mean, we're tethered to Hell's Headbangers, of course. So we have label support behind us. I mean, and that's great because we don't have to dig up the money to do 1,000 vinyls and 2,000 CDs and stuff. But could we do it on our own? Yes, certainly could at this point. But having a label at least get some push out there, get some press. They have the contacts, they have the distribution network. I think because we're so old and set in our ways, it's a little more difficult to try the new model. Not that we couldn't go that way in the future, because we have no intention of stopping. But I think for a band like us, we kind of need the label support. So I'd say in our defense, we got to go that route. And it's how we grew up, Are there advances? No, there's no advances these days. You're not selling however many pieces, however many copies that were sold even in the 90s. But we're happy to have product out there and happy to have fans that still dig what we do.
Oh, you're not old. I mean, you mentioned age. I think Mick Jagger's old.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I say old. I mean, because you can probably figure out how old I am since I'm about to have a 40th anniversary celebration for one of my previous bands. But it's to me it's always just a number, until like fingers fall off or arms fall off. So we can't walk out on stage. Then when the performances suffer, that's when it's a problem. And we're not there yet. Certainly not. Everybody's healthy, and we're just happy to get out there and thrash balls.
I saw an interview with I heard their interview on Eddie Trunk. He had Blackie Lawless of Wasp.
Yeah,
and he had some back problems. I think earlier this year or last year, he had to cancel. He almost canceled some European dates, and the only way to get back on stage was to be sitting on a chair.
Yeah.
So talk about some health problems there, and he's not that old either, So
no, I mean, remember when Steve Grimmett? Remember he wound up losing a limb. He went out there, until he passed with a prosthetic leg. And there's workarounds, but you don't want to go out there and be a shell of yourself. I mean, Ian Gillan talks about that now. You don't want to go out and embarrass yourself. He's 79, and those guys are still killing it.
Yeah, killing. Oh yeah, Deep Purple.
Yeah.
So, how did you get the Blood Feast gig?
Oh, how did I get it? About I'm going to say very late 2000s. Adam had another band called Without End, and I had a band called Skull Shifter, and we played a couple shows together. So we kind of, got back in touch after all those years not seeing each other. And then in 2012, they were putting together a release called Last Offering Before the Chopping Block, which was the true representation of the second album. What would have been Chopping Block Blues had Adam not left. And I wound up mastering that.
Really?
Because they did a release through a label in Germany. I think it was Hellion Records, to tie in with their appearance at Headbangers Open Air in 2013. So move forward again. So he and I, we're in the studio mastering the thing. We're getting to know each other better. It's all great. And then about early 2014, I found out that they were supposed to be playing a festival in Puerto Rico, and they had to cancel because the guitar player couldn't go or wouldn't go. I don't know. So I saw him that night at a show we were both playing. He had at the time on top of Blood Feast, he had a Carnivore tribute called Retaliation. It was amazing. And I have a Metallica tribute called Death Metallic, and we were playing the same show. So I went up to him and said, "Dude, I heard about what's going on with you, guitar player. If you need somebody, if he's not going to stay in the band, let me know." The next, 2 days later, that Monday morning, he calls me up. "You want in?" Essentially, and I said, "Hell yeah!" And I was playing in the reformed Phantom Warrior at the time, and that was starting to flounder a little bit. I hate to say, so for me, with the Phantom Warrior thing, I was starting to do things I never got to do. Play places I never got to play. Open for bands I never thought I'd get to. So I wanted more of that, and I knew Blood Feast. Hey, they were supposed to play in Puerto Rico. I heard they played in Germany, that sort of thing. Like, maybe I can go, do some more stuff I want to do with them. First show, so I joined the band. We get a new drummer and start working on brand new material, which wound up being on the Future State of Wicked. Suddenly, people find out there's a new lineup for Blood Feast and start offering us shows. So my first show was in Virginia, where I'd never played before. Second show was in Chicago, where I'd never played before. So I'm like, wow, this is great. And then, a couple months later, we're in Japan. I'm like, So I've gotten to do so much fun stuff from that chance opportunity. Wow. And Adam and I work really well as a guitar team. We work well as songwriters now because he had most of Future State written. But for this record, we did a lot of collaboration. And it's worked out to be a great partnership.
So you bring up the new record, Infinite Evolution. Speak of the making of it. How long did it take to write this album? And who's the main riff master here? Is it Adam, or did you pitch in some riffs in there?
Most of the my contribution on this one was a lot of lyrics. We were short on lyrics because we made the vocalist change. Although on Future State, Adam wrote virtually all the lyrics. With this one, he was coming up empty, and we had songs that didn't have lyrics. So we started recording in 2019, and we were still, the last vocals were being done just before we mixed, only because we were still kind of iron out lyrics and stuff. And then I'd throw down a guide vocal, and Adam would sing from that. It's like, oh yeah, this is how I think it should go, and he's like, yeah, and then he'd throw his twist on things. So it took us over 4 years to get the record done. And part of that's COVID, but I'm not going to blame COVID because we decided, like a year in to start from scratch. We started the whole recording process over, and I'm glad we did. But there were a lot of issues keeping it from getting done, and I'm trying to make sure that the next one doesn't get delayed. I don't want there to be a 7-year gap between studio albums this time, and we're not doing an EP. So we're right on to album number 5 after this, which is almost written. We got about 7 songs now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And we're not going. And this time we're not going in the studio until the songs are finished, because I want Adam Kiefer, our drummer, to know exactly where the vocals are, so he knows exactly what he could do. The empty spots he can fill with fills, rather than where's the lyrics going to go. That kind of thing. So I think our plans for album number 5 are a little different than what we normally do. Is we're going to, first off, we're 99% sure we're recording at a different studio, even though I have my own studio. But we're going to Band Mother Recording in Jersey City with Mike Sabatini from Attacker. He's an amazing drummer, but also an amazing engineer. And he gets better drum sounds than I do. I get great drum sounds, he gets greater, let's put it that way. So we're going to do drums with him, but I think what we're going to do is when we get 2-3 songs done, we go in and pound them out. Then we can finish up the next one. That sort of thing. So it's not going to be done in we're going to go do the drums over the course of 3-4 days. We're just going to go in a day at a time, pound out a song or two, and put all our energy into that set of drums. Then we come back here and we record the rest of the stuff, of course. And we'll probably go back and mix with him as well.
Nice.
He's got his Pro Tools rig is way better than mine.
Really?
So yeah. No, I certainly make do with what I got, but having that extra set of ears and someone we trust, that's awesome. So so that's the plan. So unless money becomes an issue with us, we're doing it with Mike. We're doing parts of it with Mike.
Do you think this album sounds like the last one, The Future State of Wicked, or would you say it stands on its own, a new chapter for Blood Feast, if you will?
Well, it's certainly a new chapter in regards to a lot of things. It's all by and large, it's all fresh material. Nothing's been lingering around except for one song. And that one came late in the game. It's like, wow, that was kind of a game changer. But, the big thing, of course, is Adam singing now versus Chris Natalini. And we did have that dalliance with Gary Markovich for a little while. We had him doing a couple of festivals with us. But he wasn't interested in coming back to the band full time. So it was, that kind of was a tease to a certain extent. And I loved working with Gary. He's a great dude. But, the vocal department is a huge difference. And the bass department on this record is a huge leap forward because we had Mike LaPond from Symphony X play the bass.
Okay.
Our new bass player, Dave Kramer, wasn't in the band until beginning of 2023. So, but to have the bottom end be, be so good, and he, bring his world-class talents to help us out. Wow, that was wonderful.
Awesome.
Mike's a great friend, and he made a huge contribution with his playing. And now Dave has got the unenviable task of playing Mike's lines, and he's doing a great job. But so Dave's a bass player moving forward, of course. So but it was a big difference. And then the next one, I think this is a big jump over Future State from a sonic standpoint. It's modern sounding, but it still has that old school vibe. That is my goal, is to keep the old school vibe and a little bit of modern, so that we don't sound homogenized. We don't sound like every other band that's going through producer X, Y, or Z, and that's a great thing. Have your own sound.
Right. So for people that are tuning in and watching and do not know the history of Blood Feast, you mentioned Gary. He's the original vocalist, right? Gary, he recorded.
No, Gary was the original vocalist way back when. He came in and he played Maryland Death Fest with us and Rage of Armageddon Festival in May and June of 2022. And then as soon as that was done, we pivoted right back to Adam singing vocals, being the vocalist again. So we're a 4-piece now instead of a 5.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this might be a question for Adam, but do you know what convinced him to get on the mic as the lead vocalist? How did he end up on leads there?
Well,
sounds good.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, when Adam had Without End, the band I mentioned earlier, he was the lead vocalist there. So playing and singing was never really an issue for him, And certainly he knew all the lyrics going back to day one with Blood Feast. He's ground zero OG.
Yep.
So he knows all the old lyrics. I mean, we were having there were I guess, for lack of a better term, performance issues, and also part of it might have come down to Chris lives in the Philadelphia area, which is 2 hours away. So we started, we said, come on up when we got gigs or we got stuff to work on, rather than come up for every rehearsal. And that probably created a problem. We were trying to be, we're being good guys. We don't want to spend all that gas money, especially when COVID came up, but it was just like, I think, you go to war with the army you got, and I think, which is a term Adam always uses often, and it was time to change the army up a little bit, change the front lines, change the command, the commanders and stuff. But Adam is doing a great job on vocals. He's somewhere between where Chris was and where Gary was.
Yeah.
I understand all the words he's singing, and he hits them all on stage. There's no lulls or anything, where there's an empty gap or anything. And I'm not trying to pick on Chris at all. It's just love the guy. We all love the guy, but it was something that we needed to do, and it was a shame. But it's this is where we're at now.
Sounds good. I mean, Adam's kicking ass, real good.
Thank you. I believe so as well. And it's only going to be better on the next record.
So for new fans, CJ, for a new Blood Feast fan just discovering the band right now, which album would you point to as a start there for a first listen, for a new fan?
Brand new fans, because of the listening, what kids listen to today, the production values they're used to, I got to tell them to go to the new record first, because that's going to be more familiar to them in terms of hearing the drums properly, hearing the guitars tear your head off, that sort of stuff. But then go back to Kill for Pleasure. Go back and dig, and pull up. You can't. How can you not love Menacing Thunder, or Kill for Pleasure, or Vampire, or Bloodlust? All that stuff. Those are wonderful, awesome thrash tunes. And we still play them all the time. We kind of have to. And so I would start them with new record, and then go back to the drawing board, and then grab that song Face Fate. Because it's a ripper, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how many new tracks are you guys playing live here?
Right now we're playing. At the next show we're playing in Brooklyn at the Rage of Armageddon 7 Festival on the 31st, August 31st. So it's a week from Saturday. Nasty Savage is headlining. Deceased, whose new record is coming out that weekend, is playing. Morbid Saint, Detente is playing their very first ever New York show. But at that show, we're most likely going to debut The Chosen from the new album. We haven't played that live yet, but we've been running the intro, off a sampler, crafting Carnage into Ravaging the Loins of Mary. We've been playing Outbreak a lot, almost every show now. We're starting to play Never Will I Die all the time. Of Hell. The Chosen is going into the set at that next show. We gotta get it out there somewhere somehow. And another one we're waiting to get in is The Preacher. We haven't rehearsed the final 2 songs yet, which is Evolution. I don't know if that's ever going to get aired, and we haven't gotten to Eye of Glass, but Eye of Glass takes up nearly 8 minutes. So that's hard when you're playing a 40-minute or 45-minute set. You still want to go back and play The Underling off the last record, or you want to play Vampire, which is close to 6 minutes long. So you got to pick your spots. But I don't foresee Outbreak, Never Will I Die, or Mary coming out of the set anytime soon. Only because we have to push the new record. But we want to get The Chosen in there for sure.
Any Texas dates where I can catch you guys, or Texas fanatics?
Oh, Texas, not yet. We got to work on that. At this point, hey, if you know anybody, tell them to get a hold of us.
Yes.
We need to get to Texas desperately. The Dallas-Fort Worth area. Got to get to San Antonio. Got to get to Houston. That's like that triangle anyway. Or Austin. All those 4 places. New Orleans, St. Louis. So many places in the U.S. we got to get with the band as it is now. But right now we've got the Brooklyn Festival at the end of August. We're going to Canada for the very first time as Blood Feast in the middle of September. We're playing the Piranha Pit Fest in Montreal, and then we got a headline show in Quebec City. And then in October we're going to the Czech Republic for the first time. Play the Thrash Nightmare Festival. And then there's one show in DC at a place called the Pie Shop. That's a headline show weekend before Thanksgiving. That's probably it for us for the year. But we're starting to look very hard into putting shows together for 2025 and push this record.
So, brand new album. Give us the title of the album, and tell us where fans can purchase it and contact you guys.
The new Blood Feast album, entitled Infinite Evolution, which you can get on our website, bloodfeastlegions.com. Just hit the merch link. We have black vinyl, we got tricolor swirl vinyl, we got CD, of course, and cassette. You can also find it on Spotify, all the streaming services that you can shake a stick at. The Apple Music, Amazon Music, all those guys. But best place to get it is from us, and that's bloodfeastlegions.com. You can also get it at the Hell's Headbangers site, because we're signed to Hell's Headbangers. And of course, if you're in Europe, you can get it through High Roller Records. And they have the red color variant on the vinyl, which looks amazing.
Awesome. I'll make sure to order myself a copy.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much it's going to cost to ship it from Germany, but we got 5 copies, one for each of us, and there was one left, and we had somebody reach out to us before we even received them, and it was like, yeah, we'll sell it to you. Yeah, the red is striking, man. Yeah,
so thank you for your time, CJ. Appreciate that, and it was an awesome chat. You're a cool guy, You're not a
Thank
big-headed rock star.
Well, I'm no rock star. People call me one, but I'm like, how can I be a rock star? You know,
Okay.
I'm just happy to play and make fans happy. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. So keep up the good work.
You know, thank you to the listeners and to the viewers. Hope to see you at some shows if we get down to wherever you're at. You know, whether it's Texas or, you know, Seattle, Portland, or California, wherever we can get our asses to. You know, we got to get to Detroit, got to get back to Chicago, all that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate all the information. Thank you for the stories and all that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Your history in the music business, and keep making good music. And you guys are doing great. Thank you, CJ.
That is the thing. We definitely are working on that 5th record. There's an INSANIAC record, you know, proper album coming out soon, and I'll get that into your hands, you know, when it's available, and maybe we can do an interview for that. You know,
For sure. Yeah, let's do it.
that's going to probably be an independent release ourselves this time, because we just, you know, there's nobody putting out that stuff now. You know, for a band that's going to be 40 years old, that really doesn't exist anymore anyway. You know, there won't be any shows or anything, but, you know, we still love those songs, and, you know, there's actually new material on it too. So,
Awesome. So appreciate that. Thank you, CJ.
all right, take care, man. Have a good one. Later, people. Hail Satan.
And to be continued there, as we will have CJ back on the show to promote his band's INSANIAC's new and first full-length album. If you paid attention there, INSANIAC, look him up, support him if you see him jamming somewhere in your neighborhood or wherever they might be. And also, for sure, go out there and support Blood Feast, a band led by Adam Tranquilli. They hail from New Jersey. New album, Infinite Evolution. Check it out. Check out and support Blood Feast, merchandise wise, attendance wise, and every way wise. Go check them out and support the guys from New Jersey, as they have some badass music to offer us thrash metal fanatics. So anyways, on behalf of myself, James, I thank CJ, and I thank all our listeners around the globe. Thank you guys overseas in Europe. Thank you guys in Mexico, South America, China, and anywhere that you might be standing and checking out that metal interview, all the way from the small state of Texas in the US of A, on the 3rd planet from the sun. Thank you guys, and don't forget to keep it metal.
That metal interview.